started to hit on this, but I didn't want to hit on this in the beginning of our discussion. So the pandemic, I remember talking to you very early on, just days into the lockdown, and what this meant. And for your global operations, well, you know what it meant for us here in California. We were on, complete lockdown for that period of time until we were able to open again in June. So what was that like for you? How did you manage the situation?
So my immediate concern was the safety of our crews and our employees, and so we immediately shut down operations as quickly as we could, and told our employees, if you could work from home, please work from home. And at the time we did that, we thought it was going to be days, maybe weeks. We didn't think it'd be months. And we're still not quite back to returning to our facilities yet, for Netflix employees. But I knew right away that we had to get production back up and running safely. And that we knew that it was possible, right? Because we were going to the grocery store. And that's a completely, when I would make these trips to the grocery store at the early days of the pandemic and think, well, that's a completely transient population with suppliers coming in and out. And yet they managed to reopen in a way that people were very safe and felt very safe. So I said, look, we could be as safe as a grocery store on our stages with confined populations, and we know where everyone, the comings and goings. A soundstage or a film production site is like, one of the most secure places on the planet. So we could be able to, can we create protocols to produce content safely during the pandemic, which enabled people to get back to an economic normalcy, which I think aids in not just their economic well-being, but also their mental health, being able to work. And then more importantly, I think even was the ability to entertain the world at a time when they desperately needed new entertainment. So the stakes seemed very high to get people back to work safely. And so we put all of our resources into that. The months that we were completely shut down, we continued to pay cast and crew throughout. And a few months after that, we created this $150 million hardship fund for the folks who were hit the hardest by this pandemic. The crews that typically work production to production, paycheck to paycheck. And we were able to hopefully keep roofs on heads and food on tables during this time, but that people were really struggling. And it really, for me, it was an incredible coming together of the creative community and the business community to entertain the world and to do it safely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you were the first to do that, to put together that fund, and there were others who followed, but that was a significant investment in the people, and it came at a time when they really, really needed that. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, the thing I thought was this little bit of a symbol, but I just thought it was something I think landed really well, which is we took a lot of our outdoor billboard spaces where we were advertising our shows and films, and turned them into thank you notes, basically, to the crews of California to thank them for the work that they do and to assure them that we'd all be back. Yeah,
absolutely. And you did mention it was such a coordinated and collective effort, and that collective spirit of so many coming together, wanting to get everybody back to work, get them back to work safely, get paychecks in their their pockets, get them doing what they love to do. I mean, and it's so important. You mentioned just the mental health side of not being able to work and having the uncertainty of of your paycheck. And I just commend organizations, companies like yours, and all the unions and everyone for coming together and getting people back to work here in California as quickly as they were able to.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It really took the collective efforts of all the guilds and unions and the Teamsters, and the governor's office was incredibly helpful in overseeing these protocols and making sure that things were from everything from testing to PPE, to social distancing requirements, to tracking, creating safety zones on sets. All those things are incredibly difficult. And basically, I was trying to describe to people what production has been like, and it's like filming everything underwater. You can do it. It's just a lot slower. It costs more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. I had the chance to spend some time with your compliance officer at Grayman when I was waiting for the governor to arrive. and the precision and the dedication of this gentleman. He had a complete command center that he took me into the command center, and he walked me through the protocols and the tracking and everything just for that one, set. And it was incredible. And I said to him after a few minutes, I said, are you a former member of the military? And he said, actually, I am. I was like, great.
It did require that level of precision. Imagine that was happening in countries all over the world, and coordinated in a way where it was fairly uneventful for our productions around the world. And then it was funny, some of the things we didn't think about were post-production limitations, because those are already pretty confined spaces where people work on editing and special effects, and people were working remotely. But like within 8 days, we had 450 workstations distributing out to people so they could do their work from home and kind of finish productions remotely. We created new safety protocols for dubbing for voice actors so that they could record the local language dub tracks in their homes. And there's so many different things that you just don't think about till the end, which is, oh yeah, how are we gonna do that? That was the question that we were asking a lot at the beginning of this.
I know that you are a humanitarian at heart. I know that because I've had the wonderful opportunity to get to know you so well over all of these years. Tell me about filmmaking and how that helps to build social cohesion, break down barriers, raise awareness of different cultures. There's so much content that's made by Netflix, and I know that there has to be some kind of sense of that you take away some sense of sort of honor that you take away from being able to do that and provide that for people around the world.
Look, I think film and television plays an important role just in entertaining people, preventing boredom, which is one thing. But on its best day, I think it brings the world together in a way that makes us more empathetic of people around the world who we don't know, cultures that we don't know anything about, that reminds people in a way that we're all pretty much the same, and I think the more people know each other, the less hostile they are to each other. Especially when you break down these kind of mysteries about people. One of the films I point to people all the time, there was a movie called The Separation from Iran a couple of years ago that was just heartbreaking drama about a couple going through a divorce and a child custody suit. And it felt like that story could have taken place in any state in the US, but it was taking place in Iran, in a place where, we've been trained to think our enemies in some dimensions. And in this way, I think people think more about the people than the borders. And the more that people can remember that we are, for all of our differences, we are pretty much all the same. And I think sometimes great, brilliant storytelling helps remind us that.
It definitely does. And there's so much conversation in the world about disinformation right now. And there are countries where there's limited access to streaming and to content other than state-run television stations. Yeah. So the more opportunity people have to access these streaming platforms, the more accurate kind of narrative about the world and people and cultures will be available to those individuals.
And I'll tell you that we're in a time with the exception of China, notably, that streaming content flows pretty freely around the world. We operate in almost every country in the world except for China, Syria, a couple of little pockets, but for the most part, China is the biggest population center where we are not. But in all those countries, we have maybe 16 or 18 takedown demands from any governments anywhere in the world. Very tiny. For the most part, like I said, the content is free flowing across borders around the world. And hopefully it's having, in your most optimistic day, you'd say that's got to have some positive impact on world peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no question about that. Ted, what sort of legacy is most important to you to leave behind?
I try not to think too much about legacy. What I try to think about is myself as a very young person. being transported by film and television, sometimes out of a bad place or a bad situation or pretty chaotic home life, all those things. And TV and film brought me a lot of joy and helped me dream bigger, helped me want more for my life than I was living sometimes. So for me, I think that this all plays a very important role in human development. And if there's any legacy I hope I play in it, is that I've made it easier for people to get to it. For me, it was linear television only back in those days. And, if you overslept on Saturday morning, you missed cartoons that week. But now, content is available to people on their schedule, at the push of a button on any device, and almost everyone's carrying one at all times. So having access to great storytelling and how that helps us be better people, if I played any small role in that, I'd be very, very proud of that. And I do think in general, the work that we do sometimes gets lost as a business and lost as an industry because it's fun. The people think about, they don't want to think about things like a factory or like and it shouldn't feel like it, even though there is a practical part of this that is a business. And so therefore, I think it's interesting that things like, I've been very engaged. I'm the chairman of the Academy Museum Board. And so we're going to have a real museum celebrating the art of cinema in Hollywood. Now, it's remarkable that there isn't one yet. If you think about it, in Detroit, there's probably 20 car museums. And in Hollywood, there's no film museum. And we're about to open one this year in September, and we're super proud of that. And I'm really proud of the role that I've been able to play, both in getting that built and then getting it open this year.
So Ted, there's so much necessary conversation right now about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the entertainment industry. And what are you doing? What is Netflix doing to promote DEI?
Thanks for asking. Because something the effort is something I'm very, very proud of. We started first. Let's start with what's on the screen. So we commissioned a study with USC Annenberg, who literally went through every piece of Netflix original content that's been produced from 2018 through last year, and judged us on 20 different points of diversity, inclusion on screen, stories on screen, relevance, how important characters are portrayed, all those things. And basically we made a commitment to publish those results no matter what they said, and then revisit them every couple of years to see how we're doing on progressing, that the content on screen is mostly representative of the population. And what we found is that we were doing pretty good on women's storylines, on African-American storylines, on putting women in front of and behind the camera and all those things. And then we have a lot of work to do on representation for Asian Americans and for Latinx stories and all those things. So it was it was eye-opening in so many ways. And really what it did was introduce my creative team to this idea of looking at all content choices with an inclusive lens. And by that, we mean just ask the question, is somebody missing? Is this story missing? And is it disconnected from reality in how it's missing? So I think getting more underrepresented voices behind the camera, they tend to hire underrepresented folks in all those working roles and as department heads, and are more likely to tell diverse and inclusive stories. So for me, it's starting with a very inclusive and diverse workforce, executive team, and then the stories that they pick and the folks that they pick to tell stories are more likely to look and sound like them. So that's a best place to do it. And the production communities in California and all over the world tend not to be quite as diverse as the population. And I say that is probably an understatement. There's an incredible program going on. I think for California, a great challenge ahead is going to be to diversify the workforce behind the camera, so it looks a little more like the population. I believe today the California production workforce is like 75% white and very male. So that's not unique, and unfortunately, in London, where it's a huge production hub for Europe, it's primarily white and male as well, and the population there is 40% diverse. So we're really trying to figure out ways to get younger people, interested and excited about careers in production. There's a program called the London Film Academy. That's fantastic. That's basically a 2-year high school program. Like think about it like a trade school versus a film school. And they teach kids all the different crafts of how to work in film and television. And they come out of it and go right onto a set. And they're putting out the first year was 300, the second year was 600. Next year is going to be 1,200 students into the production workforce, which we need. And California desperately needs this too. So investing in that kind of trade school ecosystem for production and focusing on underrepresented voices, I think will get us there.
Yes, which is so important. And in our tax credit program, we have a pilot skills training program where we target individuals from underserved and underrepresented areas and provide training for them for these industry production jobs. Yeah. So we've got that, which is a new part of our iteration of 3.0, which is terrific, and that will continue to grow and evolve. And so we'll help to diversify the workforce pipeline, which is incredibly important. So it will better reflect California.
100%. And remember, there's a lot of good work a lot of folks are doing that we could, basically make sure that all of our efforts are aligned. Netflix created this fund for creative equity. It was a $100 million fund to help some of these different organizations that are seeding this work and trying to get folks into this. There's another project from called ION that created a database of underrepresented crew members that people can go out and work on, that we've been working on with Ava DuVernay at Array and others. Right. It's very positive, and it's much needed in California. It
is absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And now we'll go to our lightning round. Thank you. Okay, let's see. First off would be your favorite filming location in California.
Ooh, good one. Downtown LA. I mean, I think that it's interesting because downtown LA gets a bad rap for being nondescript, and I think we filmed Dolomite Is My Name, which is a kind of a period piece shot in downtown LA, and we saw the incredible movie palaces and locations and buildings and architecture down there that I think is undiscovered gems.
Favorite way to spend a Saturday night?
Netflix and chill, baby.
One word to describe California.
Wondrous.
Favorite beach?
Fernald.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs. Luca and Diesel, dogs.
I knew the answer to that one, but I asked the same ones to everyone.
I'm so allergic to most cats, so that was an easy one.
Oh, great. And those dogs love you, by the way. So favorite movie? It's a tough one.
Of all time?
We could say classic or genre if you don't have one in particular.
I got to give it's not a very original answer, but it's totally true. Citizen Kane.
Yeah. A profession other than your own that you would like to attempt?
If I didn't have to make money in my life, I would love to operate a movie theater, a revival theater that played old movies.
Oh my goodness. Epic answer from Ted Sarandos. Great. Thank you so much for being here with us on Spotlight California. Ted Sarandos, thank you so much.
Colleen, thank you. This was so fun. And thank you for all you're doing in the governor's office to continue to make California the best place to work.
Thanks so much. Take care.